Okay, so I've wanted to make this video for a while now, talking about the sacred secretion, and I think I have a few minutes alone. I can do that. I have a blog, and my blog is titled Sacred Light Healing, and I just recently wrote about it on my blog, so I'll leave that in the descriptions so you can look it up and read what I'm going to say today as well. Sometimes that helps to visually see it and not just hear it. So I will share that with you at the end. So I'm kind of just going to read what's on my blog because I just don't want to mess it up. I kind of figured out what I want to say. So I'm just going to read it. So many of us celebrated the winter solstice just a few days ago and Christmas yesterday. And the reason for these celebrations is the sun. It follows its yearly cycle, and it just finished resting with the winter solstice. It appears to rest. It rises for 3 days. The 22nd, 23rd, 24th, it rises in the same latitudinal degree. So it looks like, to the ancients, it looked like it was dead for 3 days. And then on December 25th, it rose 1 degree northward and signaled the change of the coming year, the return of the sun. So the sun is very significant in this whole process of raising the secretion, raising the oil. And this is the true story of the nativity. And it has to do with the sun. And this is also called Neuronia, Naronia. And the two books I'm going to share. So The Light of Egypt, a lot of it that I'm going to share is coming out of this. And also this one. And actually this one is the best. If you're going to buy a book, buy this one that has the sacred secretion in it. So a lot of the stuff I'm going to say comes from these books, those two books today, and Santos Bonacci. He has a wonderful website, the Universal Truth School, and maybe I'll put that at the bottom too. But all this can be found on there. So, but Neuronia is also called the mystical cycle of the sun. So let's learn about it. Neuronia is also an important cycle in the human soul, which is governed by astrological forces. In The Light of Egypt, one of the books I just showed you, it says, and I'm going to quote the Light of Egypt for a few times here. So it says, each year of life, the sun transits the point occupied at the time of the individual's birth, returning to the same sign and degree of the zodiac that he occupied in the horoscope. In this transit, the solar force renews the life energies of the soul and regalvanizes them with additional force. Speaking spiritually, these life energies and potentials of that individual are held in the body to be re-energized. These germs of new forces are virtues, powers, potencies, and deific attributes of the great solar orb. They are spiritual ovums or seeds of human possibilities. And if consciously nourished and cherished, will evolve powers and states within the human soul which correspond in their action to our hidden spiritual attributes. If unnoticed or uncared for, they remain until other forces polarize them and then pass onward down their cycle. So each year on your birthday, the sun renews within you these seeds of potentials, of virtues and powers that are unique to you as an individual. These seeds are awaiting their birth within your solar plexus. In other words, Bethlehem, the house of bread, Virgo, it rules over the solar plexus, and that is also the Bethlehem in your body, and the house of bread. So reading on, I'm going to read on some more out of that book. Each month, when the moon transits the same point in the heavens when you were born, or in other words, when the moon is in your sun sign, she impregnates these seeds, endowing them with magnetic life. Those energies and potentials are magnetized and filled with miraculous energies. Therefore, in an occult sense, she confers upon humanity the powers and possibilities of magical forces. It is in this lunar solar influx of neuronia within the human constitution, then, that controls the real foundation and basis of spiritual development and occult power. So on your birthday, you are blessed with these seeds from the sun. And then every month, you have the opportunity, when the moon is in your sun sign, to give birth to these potentials and possibilities that are within you. So for me, that's every month when the moon is in Virgo, because I'm a September baby. That is when I want to be particularly conscious of raising this oil. There is a warning that comes with this knowledge, and I want to read that as well. In the book, it states, warning, remember that these most important facts, then, and guided by your own spiritual intuitions in the matter, use this knowledge according to the light which nature has already given you, or which you shall hereafter receive. We have revealed to you the mystery of Neuronia. I might be pronouncing that wrong. I'm sorry if I am. Have given you an outlined sketch of its basis in nature and its philosophy in human evolution as near as possible, without leading you out of your safe path or bringing you nigh unto dangerous ground. For those who are ready to utilize this mystery, what we have said here will be plain and easy of comprehension. For those who are not yet ready, rest assured it is wiser to wait until your spiritual nature is more highly developed. That's again from the Light of Egypt. So what is this sacred secretion that within us that gives birth to the Christ within? It's an oil that's produced within our body. And it's called the chrism, or the Christ, or Christos, which is Greek for oil, or anointed with oil, or the light within. The secretion comes from the cerebrum, which is also considered the Most High. Your body is a temple, and the scriptures are allegories. And everything that takes place in the scripture, we can relate to our body. So the Most High place, the Ark of the Covenant, it's in our head. And I'm going to talk about that. So the River Jordan is the spinal column and the spinal fluid that flows out of the Most High place down to the Dead Sea, which is our regenerative area, our genitals. Our genitals are also considered Sodom and Gomorrah. So the land flowing with milk and honey, that's our head. It's the pituitary and the pineal gland, and I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. So the zodiac quickly is represented from our head to our toes. Aries is in our head. Aries, the cerebrum. Taurus, the cerebellum. Gemini, our arms. Cancer, our chest, Leo, our heart, Virgo, our sacral plexus, Libra, the kidneys, the scales of justice, our kidneys, Scorpio, regenerative, genitals, regenerative area, Sagittarius, our hips, Capricorn, our knees, Aquarius, our calves, and Pisces is in our feet. So that's the zodiac head to toe. In the promised land, again, flowing with milk and honey is in our head. River Jordan is our spinal cord, and it makes its way down to the sacral plexus. So our sacrum is 5 fused bones at the bottom of our spinal vertebrae. And there's an oil that is in there. And then it meets with this thinner oil that comes down our spinal cord. So you can think of it like coal oil that becomes purified or refined into gasoline. It's the same kind of process. This oil is a crude oil when it's down below in the sacrum, and then when it gets raised up into the head, it becomes refined and crucified. In this process does not mean die. Crucified means to increase the vibration, to increase its power 1,000-fold. So that's an important thing to remember, that crucifixion in this is to increase its power. So this oil, there's 2 nerves in our body, the Ida and Pingala, that crisscross the medulla oblongata and form a cross. And this oil, where it contacts the cerebellum. So this is also called Golgotha, the place in the skull. So the oil is crucified on these 2 nerves, and it sits in Golgotha, which is the hypothalamus, for the time that the moon is in your sun sign, for 2 to 3 days. And then it's resurrected in the pineal gland. And that's where, if we use it righteously and we save this oil, then it regenerates our body. If it doesn't get to reach the pineal gland, if it gets spent before that, then we've used it for evil, and it slowly our bodies degenerate. We get old and eventually die. This oil is literally the breath of life. It's what's keeping us alive. So preserving the oil is preserving your body and keeping it functioning. Okay, so I'm going to read a quote from Santos Bonacci about this whole process. Summing it up, he says, every 29 and a half days, when the moon is in the sign of the zodiac that the sun was in at your birth, there is a seed or a psychophysical germ born in the or out of the solar plexus, the manger, Bethlehem. And this seed is taken up by the nerves or branches of the pneumogastric nerve, and it becomes the fruit of the tree of life, or the tree of good and evil. Good if this oil is saved and cast upon the waters, meaning circulation. And if this oil, and evil if it is used up and consumed by alcoholic drinks, gluttony that causes fermentation, making the body acidic, for acids and alcohol cut or chemically split the oil that unites with the mineral salts in the body and thus produces the monthly seed. I'll talk a little bit more at the end about that. So the nativity story, let's get into that. So on either side of the hypothalamus, side of the thalamus in the head is the glands pineal on one side and pituitary on the other. The pineal gland is the cone-shaped. It secretes a yellow or golden fluid, and it represents Joseph in this story. The pituitary gland is opposite it, and it is ellipsoid in shape. It contains the whitish secretion, the milk, and it represents Mary. So we have the divine masculine and the divine feminine in those two glands. The fluid that is found in those glands comes from the claustrum. And so this whole story of the Nativity is also the story of Santa Claus, Saint Claus, coming down the chimney and bearing gifts. It's in our nursery rhymes. It's in everything that we've been taught as children. We've just been, the secret meaning has been hidden from us, but it's also the story of Santa Claus. This claustrum is the precious oil. It's the precious gift for each body, for each person. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Mary and Joseph. So back to the pituitary and the pineal. Mary and Joseph together produce this oil. They take the oil that comes from the claustrum, differentiates it, and makes it milk and honey, and it runs down your spinal cord, down to the sacrum. And meanwhile, in your solar plexus, this is where those pseudo-physical genes are, or seeds are. And there's a thimble-shaped depression, which is called a cave, like a manger. And this is where the psychophysical seed is awaiting. It's the Holy Child born of this immaculate conception of Mary and Joseph, the sacred oil. So it's awaiting its birth each month to be taken back up the vertebrae, the 33 vertebrae that we have in our spine, and to be crucified on the cross of the Ida and the Pingala nerves. And then it awaits its resurrection in the tomb of the hypothalamus, where it's being transformed, refined, purified, for its resurrection in the pineal gland, if it makes it there. I want to quote Santos one more time. He says, this psychophysical seed is also called a fish, as it has the odor of fish and is formed in the midst of the waters, the pure water. Jesus is the fish in the midst of the pure waters. St. Augustine, he's quoting. Before birth, the human fetus floats like a fish in the fluids by which it is surrounded, and it is as it is with this child formed on the generative plane, so it is with the spiritual child born in the solar plexus of Bethlehem. Joseph and Mary, the pineal and pituitary glands, by furnishing the material for the spiritual child, which was to redeem the body formed in generation. So once a child is 12 years of age, this process will start taking place with the claustrum in the cerebrum producing this sacred oil. So when the claustrum secretes the oil, it makes its journey through the head, from the head down the spine and back up again. And this precious fluid from the claustrum separates into the two glands, the pituitary and the pineal. And those are special laboratories in our head, doing amazing things for our body. And it differentiates that fluid from the claustrum. And that's when it takes on the colors of milk and honey, honey from the pineal, milk from the pituitary. And again, the pineal is yellow. It has electric properties, and that is the masculine energy. The pituitary has the magnetic properties, takes on the whitish appearance, and that's the feminine properties. So these two glands, male and female, the Joseph and Mary of the physical body, they're the parents of the spiritual son that is born in the solar plexus of each human being, the seeds of which were generated by the sun on your birthday each year to be impregnated by the moon during its transit through your sun sign each month. This yellow and white material, the fluid, the oil, the marrow, flows down the spinal cord from the upper brain to the sacral plexus, where it gives life to the seed that's awaiting its journey back up the spine to die on the cross of the Ida and Pingala nerves, and then await its transformation in the tomb of Golgotha, the place of the skull. So it can be resurrected in the pineal gland. When this oil is refined, transmuted, lifted up, raised into the pineal gland, it becomes highly vitalized, meaning its frequency increases. It becomes a higher vibration than it was before. It's refined. And then that is what regenerates our body. Primitive Christians knew this. The Essenes, they fully realized and taught this truth, that Christ is a substance, an oil, an ointment, and it is contained within the spinal cord, and consequently all parts of the body, because every nerve of the body is directly or indirectly connected to that wonderful, I'm going to quote from the Light of Egypt again, the river that flows out of Egypt, or Eden, the river that flows out of Eden, which is the upper brain, to water the garden, which is our body. And that is our spinal fluid, and it carries this seed every month. So lastly, how do we preserve the seed? So we must live righteously, meaning we follow our conscience. We do our best to turn the 7 vices into virtues. We avoid things that make our body acidic. And we must practice sexual alchemy. So no intercourse, no masturbation. You're not going to raise that sacred sexual energy. You're not going to spend that energy at this time during the month when the moon is in your sun sign. So no sex, no masturbation. And that's a whole other video in itself as to why. But that is necessary to preserve the oil. So if you're going to have sex and masturbate, drink alcohol, do these things, you're not going to get the benefit from the oil. So no alcohol. Also meat and dairy. Things that are going to make your body acidic. I always say should be avoided as well, but the idea is to eat as clean as possible. So fruits and fruit juices are ideal. They're the most spiritual of the foods. They're the ones that are going to keep you most in tune with this process. So this is a time for meditation, reflection, prayer, drinking distilled water. Still doing that. Pure water, a half a gallon to a gallon a day, whatever your body can take, will help to flush out the toxins in your body and help to decalcify your pineal gland. If you keep at it and you keep up with this process. The whole point of doing all these things, of eating cleanly and meditating, and is to make yourself like a hollow bone. You're getting rid of the things that you were clinging to, that you used to identify with and be attached to, in order to receive inspiration, divine inspiration. Not just regenerate your body, but you are connecting to your higher self in this process. And you are becoming a channel or a conduit for inspiration to flow through. So that's why you want to just be like a hollow bone. If you're already filled up with your belief system, if you're already filled up with the I know everything, and then Creator can't speak to you through this process. So I've been practicing this for 2 months now, and I'm just coming up after the full moon. The moon will go into Virgo the 5th, 6th, and 7th of January. So I'll be doing this process again, and I've shared both my first and second experiences, and this is something I'm going to just continue to do throughout this next year. Every month I will share my experience and share what's happening with me. Also, as I go about healing, this whole journey is about healing. And so I'll share with these videos. I hope that this made some sense. Like I said, I will put my link to my blog in the description so that you can go and read it if you want to see it written down, and my sources. And Jim Carrey talks about the sexual alchemy. He talks about raising this oil, this whole thing. I'll put that link is in my blog. So if you read my blog, then you'll see that. So I just wanted to share this right now, and hope you all had a Merry Christmas, and that you have a Happy New Year, and that this helped a little bit explain what the sacred secretion is and why it's important. All right, have a Happy New Year. Last few days of 2017, I hope they're well, hope they're good, and namaste.